I'm Colleen Delaney, and let's do some predictions for Book of the Month. Hi, I'm Colleen. If you are new here, I talk about books and writing. Today, I'm going to give you my predictions for the November 2023 Book of the Month picks. Before we get started, in the description, as always, are links to my newsletter where you can get basically a monthly email about books I've read, books I have coming out, those sorts of things. I also have links in the description to some books I've written if you'd like to check those out. If you've been watching my Book of the Month prediction videos that I've had coming out just for the past couple months, some months I do a big long list, some months I do a short list, and this month I'm doing a medium list. I had an interesting time finding books that I thought were like Book of the Month par coming out in November, which happens some months. I mean, some months I feel like there are like 40, and then some months I just feel like there aren't that many. Also, obviously, I have no idea everything that's coming out because a lot of books come out every month. And so there are always books that I missed that I never saw anywhere. I try to go to some of their favorite publishers' websites and pick out books that I think they might choose again. But we'll see. We'll see how well I do. Sometimes I do great, sometimes I do terrible. Today, we're going to start with historical fiction. Also, if this is the first one of the videos that you've seen, my computer's right here, and I do read quite a bit during these because it is too difficult for me to memorize the descriptions of this many books. So with historical fiction, we're going to start with The Butterfly Collector by T. Cooper. It currently has 874 ratings on Goodreads with a 3.91 average. It comes out on November 28th, so at the end of the month, and it is exactly 400 pages. A botanical illustration of a butterfly, a missing baby, and a twisty mystery 50 years in the making. 1868 Morpeth, which is in Australia. I looked it up. Theodora Breckenridge, still mourning after the loss of her parents and brother at sea, is more interested in working quietly on her art at the family's country estate than she is in finding a husband in Sydney society, even if her elder sister Florence has other ideas. Theodora seeks to emulate prestigious nature illustrators, the Scott sisters, who live nearby. She cannot believe her luck when she discovers a butterfly never seen before in Australia. With the help of her maid Clary and her beautiful drawings, Theodora is posed to make a scientific discovery that will put her name on the map. Then Clary's newborn son goes missing and everything changes. We jump then to 1922 in Sydney, when would-be journalist Verity Banks is sent an anonymous parcel containing a spectacular butterfly costume, along with an invitation to Sydney's Artist Masquerade Ball the same day she loses her job at the Arrow. She is both baffled and determined to attend. Her late grandfather Sid, an esteemed newspaperman, would expect no less of her. At the ball, she lands a juicy commission to write the history of the Treadwell Foundation, an institution that supports disgraced young women and their babies. As she begins to dig, her research quickly leads her to an increasingly dark and complex mystery, a mystery 50 years in the making. Can she solve it, and will anyone believe her if she does? So this reminded me a lot of Kate Morton, who is an author I really enjoy, who also writes a lot of books set in Australia. But she writes a lot of books that, like, there's a mystery that happens in the past and then someone tries to solve it in the future, and there's usually like quite a bit of time in between. I thought that would be a good Book of the Month pick. The cover also is very Book of the Month. Let's move on to my next pick for historical fiction. The Porcelain Maker by Sarah Freethy. This book is currently has 276 ratings on Goodreads with a 4.36. It comes out on November 7th, and it's 384 pages, so kind of like their normal historical fiction length. We start in Germany, 1929. Under the dazzling lights of Berlin, two people are drawn together: Max, a Jewish architect, and Bettina, a beautiful and celebrated German avant-garde artist. But their bright beginning is soon dimmed by the rising threat of Nazism. In time, Max is arrested and sent to the concentration camp at Dachau, where only his talent in making exquisite porcelain figures stands between him and death. Everything Bettina has done up until now has been meticulously planned to try to save Max. She would rather die than live another moment without him, but can one moment last a lifetime? Then we jump to America in 1993. Bettina's daughter Clara embarks on a journey to trace her roots and discover the identity of her father, a secret her mother has kept from her for reasons she's never understood. As Clara starts piecing the puzzle together, we are transported back in time, where life is lived on a razor's edge and deception and death lurk around every corner. So I think that picking a World War II book for Book of the Month is usually like a pretty safe bet, because a lot of months they do a World War II historical. I did like that this one had the added sort of bonus, I don't know if you call it a bonus, of part of the book taking place in 1993. As someone who grew up in the 90s, I think that's kind of a cool addition that we're looking at it at the point of view of Bettina's daughter Clara, who I assume is also the daughter of Max, and we're going to find out. probably a really sad ending. Okay, so next I picked one that doesn't have enough Goodreads ratings for me usually to pick it, but I want you to listen to the description and you'll understand why I picked it. It's called Above the Salt. It's by Catherine Vaz, V-A-Z. It currently only has 34 ratings on Goodreads, but it has a 4.74 with 34 ratings, which is extremely high. It is coming out on November 7th. It's 432 pages, so they do give you like a disclaimer if it's over 400 pages. It's published by Flatiron, which is a publication that Book of the Month uses a lot. It has an amazing cover that I feel like is such a Book of the Month cover, and the plot sounds great. So go on this ride with me. John Alves, son of famous Presbyterian martyr on the Portuguese island of Madeira, spends his childhood in jail and in poverty. When he meets Mary Freitas, though the adopted daughter of a master botanist, her true lineage is the subject of dangerous rumor. A spark kindles into a lasting bond between them. But soon their families must confront the rising blood tide of warfare between Catholics and Protestants. Fleeing with only what they can carry, John and Mary are separated and arrive at different times and places in a rapidly growing and changing mid-19th century Illinois. Years later, John settles into his life as an educator at Jacksonville's nationally renowned School for the Deaf, and Mary is a gardener in Springfield for handsome, wealthy Edward Moore. After John and Mary reconnect, the home of rising politician Abraham Lincoln provides a prime setting for their courtship. But conflict looms on the horizon and John is torn. Should he join the Union Army to prove his loyalty to his new country, or should he stay to fight for the chance to make a life with the one he loves? And should Mary accept Edward's marriage proposal since he is a partner in her business of selling the miracle berry fruit she transported from Madeira, or should she choose her passion for John? Social jealousies and betrayals compound the obstacles unleashed by the Civil War. That sounds so cool and so interesting and like such a different kind of historical fiction book, which is why I feel like, is that the pick? I don't know. It just felt like such a Book of the Month pick. Like, yes, you have the backdrop of the American Civil War, but like I know nothing about Portuguese history other than like during the exploration period. So to me, that sounded really cool. I think the cover is like one of the best covers I've seen this year, which also is like, I'm such a sucker for a good cover. I know the most of us are. Most of us are. So that is the reason I wanted to tell you about that book. Okay, so let's move on to sci-fi fantasy. I'm going to start with a sci-fi pick that is called The Future by Naomi Alderman. Currently has 399 ratings on Goodreads with a 3.97 average. It's coming out on November 7th. It is 432 pages, which is a little long, but I mean for a sci-fi fantasy, that's not really that long. The description is a little weird, so I'm going to read it to you, but I'm going to be like, I looked at that cover and I could just like see that Book of the Month, and I feel like it's been a while since we had a sci-fi pick. So here we go. The future, as the richest people on the planet have discovered, is where the money is. The future is a few billionaires leading the world to destruction while safeguarding their own survival with secret lavish bunkers. The future is private weather, technological prophecy, and highly deniable weapons. The future is a handful of friends, the daughter of a cult leader, a non-binary hacker, an ousted Silicon Valley visionary, the concerned wife of a dangerous CEO, and an internet-famous survivalist, hatching a daring plan. It could be the greatest heist ever or the cataclysmic end of civilization. The future is what you see if you don't look behind you. The future is the only reason to do anything, the only object of desire. The future is here. So while I feel like that is kind of like a weird description using the future over and over and over again, I do think that like the idea of billionaires like providing themselves a safe place if the world falls apart is an interesting concept. It's listed as science fiction, dystopia, and speculative fiction with LGBT themes. So I feel like that could be a pick. Let's go on. So the thing about fantasy coming out this month is there is a lot of fantasy coming out, but like most of it didn't feel like fantasy that Book of the Month would pick. So I found The Future, which I felt like could be a pick. And then I found this book that the first time I found it, it looked like it was a November release. But then when I like was doing more research about it last night, it actually comes out on Halloween. So the last day of October. And I'm still going to tell you about it because it sounds really cool. And it has a super gorgeous cover. So it's What the River Knows by Isabella you know me with Spanish. Ibanez? Yes, I think it's Ibanez. I'm so bad at pronouncing other languages. It's like a real problem for me. This is coming out on Halloween. It's 416 pages. It's listed as YA, but when I read the description, it felt more like new adult to me. So I didn't put it in my very small YA section this month, but let me just tell you about it. Bolivian Argentinian Inés Oliveira belongs to the glittering upper society of 19th century Buenos Aires. Okay, I want to read that book, and I don't even like YA. And like the rest of the world, the town is steeped in old world magic that's been largely left behind or forgotten. Inés has everything a girl might want except for the one thing she yearns for most, her globe-trotting parents, who frequently leave her behind. When she receives word of their tragic deaths, Inés inherits their massive fortune and a mysterious guardian, an archaeologist in partnership with his Egyptian brother-in-law. Yearning for answers, Inés sails to Cairo, bringing her sketch pads and an ancient golden ring her father sent her for safekeeping before he died. But upon her arrival, the old world magic tethered to the ring pulls her down a path where she soon discovers there's more to her parents' disappearance than what her guardian led her to believe. With her guardian's infuriatingly handsome assistant thwarting her at every turn, Inés must rely on ancient magic to uncover the truth about her parents' disappearance or risk becoming a pawn in a larger game that will kill her. It's called The Mummy Meets Death on the Nile. I want to read that book, and I almost never want to read anything that's young adult, but that sounds so good. So I had to tell you about it. I should have told you about it in my October predictions, which obviously wasn't picked, but what a good sounding book. Okay, now let's move on to romance, which I'm going to be honest, this month it was really easy to find historical fiction. It was really easy to find thrillers, but my other genres that usually I can find a ton for, it was a little bit tricky. So the first romance I have for you is A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch by Sarah Hawley, which is technically book 2 in Glimmer Falls, but can be read as a standalone. It also has a paranormal twist, which usually Book of the Month sticks to October for those, but there's more than one romance coming out that has like good hype, that has a paranormal twist, which is why I'm including it. This currently only has 99 ratings on Goodreads, but a 4.06 average. It comes out November 28th, and it is 432 pages, so slightly long, but sometimes when you have like a mixed genre, so this is considered both romance and fantasy, you have a little bit longer because you got to build a world, plus a romantic plotline. Caladia Cunnington knows she's rough around the edges despite being heir to one of the small town Glimmer Falls founding witch families. While her gym obsession is a great outlet for her anxieties and anger, her hot temper still gets the best of her and manifests in bar brawls. When Caladia, I think it's how I say it, Caladia, saves someone from a demon attack one night, though she's happy to put her magic and rage to good use, until she realizes the man she saved is none other than Astaroth, the ruthless demon who orchestrated a soul bargain on her best friend. Astaroth is a legendary soul bargainer and one of the 9 members of the Demon High Council, except he can't remember any of this. Suffering from amnesia after being banished to the mortal plane, Astaroth doesn't know why a demon named Moloch is after him, nor why the muscular, angry, hot, in a terrifying way witch who saved him hates him so much. Unable to leave anyone in such a vulnerable state, even the most despicable demon, Caladia grudgingly decides to help him. Besides, punching an amnesiac would be in poor taste. The two set out on an uneasy road trip to find the witch who might be able to restore Astaroth's memory so they can learn how to defeat Moloch. Caladia vows that once Astaroth is cured, she'll kick his ass, but the more time she spends with the snarky yet utterly charming demon, the more she realizes she likes this new improved Astaroth. And maybe she doesn't want him to recover his memories after all. It has a lot of fun romantic tropes in it. I know it's the second in a series, but it sounds very standalone-y. But you get the amnesia, you got the road trip, you got the badass witch, and you've got the enemies to lovers, but the enemy can't remember why they're enemies. I love a strong heroine who can just like beat people up, probably because I was obsessed with like Buffy and Angel when I was in college. So that sounded like kind of a lot of fun. Next, I have Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan. It currently has 235 ratings on Goodreads with a 4.07 average. It is coming out on November 14th. And let me read you the description. Riley Rhodes finally has a chance to turn her family's knack for the supernatural into a legitimate business when she's hired to break the curse on an infamous Scottish castle. Used to working alone in her alienating occupation, she's pleasantly surprised to meet a handsome stranger upon arrival, until he tries to get her fired. Fresh off a professional scandal, Clark Edgware can't allow a self-proclaimed curse breaker to threaten his last chance for redemption. After he fails to get Riley kicked off his survey site, he vows to avoid her. Unfortunately for him, she vows to get even. Riley expects the curse to do her dirty work by driving Clark away, but instead they keep finding themselves in close proximity, too close. Turns out the only thing they do better than fight is fool around. If they're not careful by the end of this, more than the castle will end up in ruins. So again, we've got a supernatural twist, which is weird for November, less weird for October, but we have the rivals to lovers, because I don't really consider that like enemies. That seems more rivals to lovers. You get the close proximity. You get the Scottish setting, which us Americans just love. And I'm assuming Clark Edgware is maybe Scottish. I don't know what kind of last name Edgware is. I'm not sure. But if you also get a hero with a Scottish accent, we love it. And lastly, we have Plot Twist by Erin LaRosa. Currently has 944 ratings on Goodreads with a 3.52 average, coming out on November 14th, 336 pages, very normal length. She's written off more than she can chew. Romance author Sophie Lyon's ironic secret just went viral. She's never been in love. Though her debut novel made readers swoon, Sophie's having trouble getting her new characters to happily ever after, and she blames it on her own uninspired love life. With a manuscript deadline looming, Sophie makes an ambitious plan to overcome her writer's block, reunite with her exes to learn why she's ever fallen in love, and document it all for her millions of new TikTok followers. Luckily, Sophie's reclusive landlord, Dash Montrose, a former teen heartthrob, has social media all figured out and offers to help. But he doesn't mention that he's an anonymous online crafter, a hobby that helps him maintain his sobriety. No one knows about his complicated relationship with alcohol, and he intends to keep it that way. His family is Hollywood royalty, so Dash has to steer clear of scandal. As Sophie and Dash grow closer, they discover a heat between them that rivals Dash's pottery kiln, but Sophie needs to figure out who she is outside of her relationships, and Dash isn't sure he's stable enough for the commitment she deserves. So Sophie suggests what any good romance author would: a friends with benefits arrangement. Surely a casual relationship won't cause any trouble. That sounds just like super fun. And like a lot of good tropes. You've got the friends with benefits, which I don't know if I've always called it that, but like that we're not going to get attached to each other. You have the fun thing of her being a writer. You've got her meeting all her exes. That seemed like a fun, romance pick. I wouldn't call this a rom-com, though it probably is going to be billed as one, because you've got the hero trying to maintain his sobriety. That seems a little heavy for a rom-com, but this still seems like a very fun contemporary romance to get into. All right, let's move on to thrillers. And while I didn't find a ton of thrillers that had like so many reviews already from like ARC readers, I did find some that I think are solid picks for book of the month. We're going to start with The Engagement Party by Finley Turner. It currently has 68 ratings on Goodreads with a 3.68 average. It's coming out on November 7th, and it is 320 pages. An engagement party turns deadly in this debut thriller in the tradition of Sarah Pinborough and Ruth Ware, who Book of the Month likes. Cass Baptiste is newly engaged to her fiancé, Murray Sedgemont, after a whirlwind romance. Before they even get to share the news, an invitation arrives via messenger to an engagement party hosted by Murray's parents. When Cass and Murray arrive at the Sedgemont estate, she is astonished to learn that Murray's family is one of the most powerful families in North Carolina. As Cass's future mother-in-law, Beatrice, whips her into a frenzy over the perfect party for the state's elite, Cass begins to receive anonymous, threatening social media messages. On the night of the event, as champagne is popped and the celebrations begin, a body is found in the lavish home. All eyes are on Cass, the interloper among the rich and powerful guests. Over the course of the party, Cass's dark past unexpectedly becomes intertwined with the murder. And in order to prove her innocence, she must finally come to terms with her secret. As the Murray family's secrets are revealed, Cass must prove herself innocent while evading the anonymous threats that haunt every move. This reminded me a little bit of The Family Game, which was by Catherine Stedman, I think, that Book of the Month released last October, I think it was. But you get like the not wealthy fiance being embroiled in the rich people behaving badly. We all love rich people behaving badly. Next, I have The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. So The Maid was an add-on, which is book 1 in this series. I don't think this is going to be a main pick, but I think it might be an add-on, which is why I included it. I am like one of the only people who really didn't like The Maid. So here we go. It currently has 700 ratings on Goodreads with a 4.04 average. It is 304 pages and coming out on November 28th. I could also see them doing an add-on for December, because sometimes they do add-ons that are coming out that already came out. So this might be a December add-on. Molly Gray is not like anyone else. With her flair for cleaning and proper etiquette, she has risen through the ranks of the glorious 5-star Regency Grand Hotel to become the esteemed head maid. But just as her life reaches the pinnacle state of perfection, her world is turned upside down when J.T. Grimthorpe, the world-renowned mystery author, drops dead, very dead, on the hotel's tea room floor. When Detective Stark, Molly's old foe, investigates the author's unexpected demise, it becomes clear that his death was a murder most foul. Suspects abound, and everyone wants to know who killed J.D. Grimthorpe. Was it Lily, the new maid in training, or was it Serena, the author's secretary? Could Mr. Preston, the hotel's beloved doorman, be hiding something? And is Molly really as innocent as she seems? As the case threatens the hotel's pristine reputation, Molly knows she alone holds the key to unlocking the killer's identity. But that key is buried deep in her past because long ago she knew J.D. Grimthorpe. Molly begins to comb her memory for clues, revisiting her childhood and the mysterious Grimthorpe mansion where she and her dearly departed Gran once worked side by side. With the entire hotel under investigation, Molly must solve the murder post-haste. But if it's one thing Molly knows for sure, it's that dirty secrets don't stay buried forever. So this is like a cozy mystery. As I said, The Maid was an add-on. I can't remember when that came out. I feel like it was about a year ago that it came out. I know I read it last year, but I read an arc. So yeah, maybe an add-on, we'll see. Next, I have The Favorites by Rosemary Hennigan. It currently has 44 ratings on Goodreads with a 3.68 average. It's coming out on November 14th, and it's 275 pages. Most students would kill to be accepted to the prestigious law and literature cohort at Franklin University, but for Jessie Mooney, enrollment in the course is about more than elite campus status, rigorous thought, and professional connections. It's her chance to get close to the charismatic professor Jay Crane and take him down. From the moment she discovered their secret relationship, Jessie's been convinced Crane is to blame for the events leading to her sister's death. Still haunted by their last email exchange, "You know what you did," she'll cross any line to hold him accountable. But when Jessie finally earns Crane's trust and the coveted position as one of his favorites, attracting the other students' envy and suspicion, the truth becomes darkly twisted. Is it justice Jessie craves or revenge? And what does she stand to lose if she gets in the way? That sounds awesome. I mean, it doesn't have that many reviews, and it's a smaller publishing house, but it just sounded like a really cool pick. And you get like the Dark Academia. You also get like the sister on a vengeance path. It seemed like a good pick. I could also see this being picked for like Aardvark Books, the other book subscription service that I've used at times, because they tend to pick things that are a little bit like less well known than Book of the Month. And I do think this is a book that sounds very good. I don't know how the execution is going to be, but it sounds very good. And lastly, for thrillers, I have The Professor by Lauren Nassett. It currently has 65 ratings on Goodreads with a 4 even average. It's coming out on November 14th, and it is 336 pages. On a spring afternoon in Athens, Georgia, Ethan Haddock is discovered in his apartment dead, apparently by his own hand. His fatality immediately garners media, not because his death reflects the troubling increase of depression and mental health issues among college students, but because the media has caught whiff of a scandal. His professor, Dr. Verena Sobek, has been taken in for questioning, and there are rumors his death is the result of a bad romance. The Title IX investigation is open, and the professor is suspended, and social media crusaders and trolls alike are out for blood. Marla Kaplan never investigated love affairs. A former detective turned research assistant, she misses the excitement of her old job, but most of all, her friendship with her partner, Teddy. When her mother, a professor at the university and a colleague of the accused professor, asks for her help, she finds herself in the impossible position of proving something didn't happen. Without the credentials to interview suspects or access phone records, she will have to get closer to the victim's life than ever before. And quickly, she finds herself in his apartment, having dinner with his roommates, even sleeping in his bed. But is she too close to see the truth? In her relentless pursuit to uncover the mystery behind Ethan's death, Marla will be forced to confront the power structures ingrained in the classroom against the backdrop of a historic campus and an institution that sometimes fails its most vulnerable members. I'm kind of surprised that doesn't have more ratings. It's also published by Flatiron, which is a publishing company Book of the Month uses often. I have like a stack of my Book of the Month books here, and several of them are published by Flatiron. I think that's the pick. Okay, we're gonna move on. The next couple of genres I kind of grouped together because I didn't have a ton of books in any of them, and those genres are contemporary / lit fic, nonfiction, and YA. If you are a Book of the Month subscriber or watch a lot of these videos, you'll know that there isn't usually a nonfiction or a YA pick, but they do them occasionally. And because romance, fantasy, contemporary lit fic were kind of low in terms of like releases that I thought Book of the Month would go for, I feel like one of those might be included. So we're going to start with contemporary lit fic, which they usually have. Usually I feel like in a month I can find a ton of contemporary and lit fic type titles that I think Book of the Month will choose, but this was really kind of a weird month and I only have one. It's Day by Michael Cunningham. It currently has 201 ratings with a 4.02 average. It's coming out on November 14th and it is 288 pages. Here is the description. As the world changes around them, a family weathers the storms of growing up, growing older, falling in and out of love, losing the things that are most precious, and learning to go on. And it's from the person who wrote The Hours. April 5th, 2019. In a cozy brownstone in Brooklyn, the veneer of domestic bliss is beginning to crack. Dan and Isabel, troubled husband and wife, are both a little bit in love with Isabel's younger brother, Robbie. Robbie, wayward soul of the family, who still lives in the attic loft. Robbie, who trying to get over his most recent boyfriend has created a glamorous avatar online. Robbie, who now has to move out of the house and whose departure threatens to break the family apart. Meanwhile, Nathan, age 10, is taking his first uncertain steps towards independence, while Violet, 5, does her best not to notice the growing rift between her parents. April 5th, 2020. As the world goes into lockdown, the brownstone is feeling more like a prison. Violet is terrified of leaving the windows open, obsessed with keeping her family safe, while Nathan attempts to skirt her rules. Isabel and Dan communicate mostly in veiled jabs and frustrated sighs, and beloved Robbie is stranded in Iceland alone in a mountain cabin with nothing but his thoughts and his secret Instagram life for company. April 5th, 2021. Emerging from the worst of the crisis, the family reckons with a new, very different reality, with what they've learned, what they've lost, and how they might go on. So that does sound kind of like an interesting look at like how the pandemic affected one family, because I think we can all say that we were affected in different ways. So it might be a pick. I don't know. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about two nonfiction titles that might be a pick, and one of them I'm kind of feeling like it is going to be a pick, and that is Class by Stephanie Land. It currently has 185 ratings on Goodreads with a 3.81 average. It's coming out on November 7th and it's 285 pages. Stephanie Land wrote Made, which then was made into a Netflix series and was a Book of the Month pick, which is why I feel like this will probably be picked. When Stephanie Land set out to write her memoir, Made, she never could have imagined what was to come. Handpicked by President Barack Obama as one of the best books of 2019, it was called An Eye-Opening Journey into the Lives of the Working Poor. Later was adapted into a hit Netflix series, Made, which was viewed by 67 million households and the fourth most watched show in 2021, yada, yada, yada. Made was a story about a house cleaner, but it also was a story about a woman with a dream. In Class, Land takes us with her as she finishes college and pursues her writing career. Facing barriers at every turn, including a Byzantine loan system, not having enough money for food, navigating the judgments of professors and fellow students who didn't understand the demands of attending college while under the poverty line, Land finds a way to survive once again, finally graduating in her mid-30s. Class paints an intimate and heartbreaking portrait of motherhood as it converges and often conflicts with personal desires and professional ambition. Who has the right to create art? Who has the right to go to college? And what kind of work is valued in our culture? In clear and candid moving prose, Class grapples with these questions, offering a searing indictment of America's educational system and an inspiring testimony of a mother's triumph against all odds. I feel like that's something that a lot of people can relate to, even if you weren't going to school when you were below the poverty line, just paying back loans and trying to make life work. The next nonfiction pick, which I don't think is going to be a pick, but I do think might be an add-on, is My Name is Barbara. Barbra Streisand's biography. I don't really need to read the stuff for you, but it's, coming out on, it's 1,000 pages. Oh my God, I did not realize that it's over 1,000 pages. What the heck is this book gonna look like? So maybe not, maybe yes, maybe not. I'm not a huge Barbra Streisand fan. We recently got all my father-in-law and mother-in-law's old records, and we were going through them, and there was a Barbra Streisand one, and my kids like that song right now. What the heck is it called? But it's like Barbra Streisand at the beginning. So they were like, oh, can we listen to this? I'm like, yeah, it's going to sound very different from that like techno song you like. But I know a lot of people love her. So I could see her biography being a add-on. I cannot believe it's 1,000 pages. Yeah. And lastly, I have one YA book that I wanted to talk about, besides the one I talked about in fantasy. That's not going to be a pick because it came out in October. And that is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood is kind of like a Book of the Month darling, and this is her YA debut. So I feel like it would make sense for it to be a pick, especially because I felt like the romance picks were a little bit all over the place this month. Currently is a 4.31 average with 1,447 ratings on Goodreads. Gotta love those romance authors who can really pull those ratings. It is coming out on November 7th, and it is 368 pages long. Mallory Greenleaf is done with chess. Every move counts nowadays. After the sport led to the destruction of her family 4 years earlier, Mallory's focus is on her mom, her sisters, and the dead-end job that keeps the lights on. That is until she begrudgingly agrees to play in one last charity tournament and inadvertently wipes the board with notorious king killer Nolan Sawyer, current world champion and reigning bad boy of chess. I'm sorry. I love that line. Nolan's loss to an unknown rookie shocks everyone. What's even more confusing, his desire to cross pawns again. What kind of gambit is Nolan playing? The smart move would be to walk away, resign, game over. But Mallory's victory opens the door to sorely needed cash prizes, and despite everything, she can't help feeling drawn to the enigmatic strategist. As she rockets up the ranks, Mallory struggles to keep her family safely separated from the game that wrecked it in the first place. And as her love for the sport she so desperately wanted to hate begins to rekindle, Mallory quickly realizes that the games aren't only on the board. The spotlight is brighter than she imagined, and the competition can be fiercely attractive and intelligent and infuriating. I'm sorry, that just sounds like a lot of fun. Like, I don't read YA. I'm not going to read a YA romance because I just know it's like not gonna do anything for me. But that line, king killer Nolan Sawyer, current world champion and reigning bad boy of chess, I just can't. I love it. I love that so much. That sounds fantastic. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, it sounds like a happy version of The Queen's Gambit, which I did really enjoy because I like my stuff a little depressing sometimes. And with it being Ali Hazelwood, I think there's a very good chance she'll get picked. Okay, so let's go with my predictions from this video, what I think is actually going to be picked. Yes, I do think Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood is going to be a pick, a solid pick. I think Class by Stephanie Land is going to be a pick. I think Day by Michael Cunningham is going to be the contemporary lit fic pick. I think The Professor by Lauren Nosset is going to be the thriller pick, and I really hope I'm right, because if I'm right with this one, it'll mean like it was good for me looking at the publishing companies and like doing good research. I think The Future by Naomi Alderman is going to be the fantasy sci-fi pick, and I am going to have a sixth pick of Above the Salt by Catherine Vaz as the historical fiction pick. It doesn't have a lot of reviews. It doesn't have a big shiny stuff going on. It has a solid publishing company and a beautiful cover. So those are my picks. Let's see how well I did. As always, if you want to see what happens with these, whether or not got them right, I always go over them in my TBR for the next month. So my November TBR video, which will come out the last week of October after they release the picks, I will say what I got right and what I got wrong. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if there were any books you're super excited about, please pop them on. If there's any books that you know are coming out that you really hope Book of the Month picks, please put it in the comments. If you don't feel like commenting a word, but you would like to let me know you made it to the end of the video, give me a big stack of books emojis. I always love those. And as always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.